So in the interest of keeping things on track, we'll go ahead and just jump right in. Welcome to the Clayton Fire Long-Term Recovery Task Force. We're glad you joined us this evening. We're thrilled to have you in this wonderful Lower Lake venue. The museum is just a wonderful place to be, so thank you. You have benefit of a preview of the upcoming quilt show they've begun setting up. It starts on September 17th, and they're thrilled to have the community come in and take it in as a whole. And we're so appreciative that they were able to kind of forego some of the setup to let us use the space tonight. So again, thanks for coming. We have an action-packed agenda for you tonight that mostly focuses on debris cleanup and issues pertaining to that. So we're going to jump in here pretty quick. But we also have a lot of our partner agencies here and in the audience. So in addition to task force reps here at the table, I just want to let you know who else is here. So you can be thinking of questions that you might have for anyone else here in the room that's not at the table. Lower Lake County Waterworks is here tonight. American Red Cross is here. California Hope is here. And get it quickly, that program is targeted to end October 14th. Lake County Fire is here. Various utility providers are here. PG&E is here. Any other representatives from local utilities? Anybody else? Okay. Department of Toxic Substances, State Representative is here. The Sheriff and Undersheriff and OES Manager are here as well. Representative Brad Honorado from Congressman Thompson's office joined us tonight. Lower Lake Community Action Group, Mike Dean is in the back. First District Supervisor Jim Comstock in the rear. Miss anybody else? Anybody else that I should point out? I think I got you all. So again, all these folks are here to answer questions if you have them. Your questions don't just have to be limited to the folks at the table. And we don't have a microphone tonight, but I think I'm doing okay as long as we kind of project our voices. Sorry we're up here. It wasn't like this when we were in the building earlier today. Our table was down on the floor. I'm not sure how we ended up here, but maybe it works, maybe it helps given the lack of the microphone. We still have chairs available up front, so folks, come on in. There's quite a few chairs here and there, and a few more we can pass down.
Well, this is like church. If you get here late, you got to sit up front.
Okay, so we also have an information table at the back that is being leaned against. Feel free to lean. But it has some information about small business and economic development and various other things that have been placed on that table. So help yourself, and we'll be talking about some of those resources at the table. I neglected to do introductions. I'll introduce myself first, and then as we move down the table and give our reports, each person at the table will introduce themselves. I'm Carol Hutchinson. I'm the County Administrative Officer, and I was the Recovery Coordinator for the Valley Fire, and for the Clayton Fire, I'm serving alongside Supervisor Brown, and we're sort of co-coordinating this effort with you tonight. Thanks again for coming. I want to start by introducing Ray Ruminski. He's the Lake County Environmental Health Director, and he has a host of things to tell you about debris cleanup.
Thank you, Carol. My name is Ray Ruminski. I'm sitting next to Sean Smith from Cal OES. Cal OES means Office of Emergency Services. From the County Office of Emergency Services and in the Sheriff's Office, California Office of Emergency Services is the state function for that. So what we want to present information on tonight is this debris removal fire cleanup program. It's being offered to property owners of residential property. If you want the state agency with state resources and state contractors to come to your property and clean up all the fire debris and the ash and the rubbish and the metal and the concrete and masonry, we can do that. We have a sign-up form, and it's a contract. It's called right of entry permit, It describes the thing. It's we have a late 3-year version of it for Clayton than we have in the past. I have some copies at the back table, but next to it is another information frequently asked question document, and that's also at the back table. So this is available to you should you want it. And a couple of details of that are you get something where the state resources is expended on your private property. It's kind of a tricky thing, you know, with the taxpayer spending his money on your land. You give something up in order to get that. So we'll go over the contract. If you have specific questions, you know, you can answer that. You can look at it. You can turn it in tonight, and we'll be able to process it. You can look at it and take it and make your decision later if you want. We'll have it up on the Lake County Recovers web pages. We'll have copies at the Environmental Health Office right now. You can call our office. So basically, this is being offered, and it's your choice as the property owner to participate or not.
Ray, can I just say one thing?
Sure.
We still have chairs in various locations up here for you folks that have come in. If you have an empty chair next to you, would you raise your hand, please? There's quite a few up here, folks, if you want them.
So there.
I also neglected to mention that our videographer is Tony Barthel. Tony, where are we broadcasting at this moment?
So there are 2 live streams that both at the moment are working well. We're broadcasting on the Lake County OES Facebook page in a live stream, and also on the Lake County OES Google, or rather YouTube page as a live stream, and both of these will be available later. And one additional to Mr. Ruminski's comment, those right of entry forms and such are already on Lake County Recovers.
Yeah.
So.
Thank you, Tony.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Yeah, I was describing the state-funded, state-sponsored, state-managed program for cleanup. There's another option, particularly if you're, especially if your casualty insurance policy covers it well. You can hire a private contractor to do all the same work, and you're committed to a similar operational standard for cleanup. And what we have is that the private contractor and the owner can sign up, and you register that, and then you self-certify that everything's done correctly. There is some sampling, some credentialing on that, and I have that information packet. It's smaller, and the registration forms and the self-certification forms are behind it in the same packet. So that's kind of what we have. And do we want questions later or questions now? Or?
I think we can go right into questions tonight. Ray, there are a number of contractors in Lake County that are already certified to do this work. Yes, because of the Valley Fire, they were certified to do this work.
Yes, in addition to the contractor's A license or C21 demolition license, the contractor needs his staff credentialed to work in a hazardous area. So there's several contractors both inside and outside the county that can provide that. Specific questions?
Just go with questions. Yes, sir.
Mr. Red Sox fan?
Yeah, I have a question. I went and picked up the packets that they were passing out when all this stuff first came out. And it said, if Cal Recycle came in to do this stuff, they said they would accept what the insurance company would pay, and anything above and beyond that, there would be no cost to the owner. Is that not true?
That is true.
Okay.
If your property was insured at the day of the loss,
Okay.
and you have part of your limits specified for debris removal, we expect you to separate that amount only, remit it back to the county, who pays it to the state.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that that was still true, and if it wasn't true, I wanted to make sure the person that wrote it didn't have a job anymore.
Nice.
And if there's no insurance, then there's no.
Right.
And then the lady in red in front had her hand up.
Yeah, I'm sorry if I didn't listen well enough, but if I didn't have insurance, then I don't do the private contractor, I just do Hydroseeding. Yeah.
Yes.
Just fill out all those forms that he's got there.
Yeah, the state funded program is available to you on that for your residential property. You don't need to have any insurance to sign up.
And you said there's something you give in return, what was that?
If you have insurance, you'd be given that in return.
Okay.
No. In the operation, you authorize our subcontractors to do the work, and there's certain decisions about the work that we take away from you. How much is done, if there's concrete and masonry foundations, you can't keep that. If there's more heavy metals residual in the soil after the testing is done, or soil has to be scraped away, so your lot will likely have a bowl or a depression where the home was, stuff like that.
Are those requirements as stringent if someone had insurance?
Exactly the same.
Yeah. And if I had a chimney and a wood stove, does that have to go?
Chimney, yes. If there's a salvageable piece of equipment like a wood stove and you want to salvage certain stuff, you can work with our contractors, they'll set it aside. If it's a hazard, if it's a risk, we have to take it.
Quick.
Yeah, Scott, or Sean?
My name's Sean Smith. I'm with the Governor's Office of Emergency Services, which acronym is CalOES, and I'm representing the state for the debris cleanup. So to answer your question, one of the things that we found after doing last year's fires, both in this county and Calaveras, which had about 800 of their own, was that we found that our right of entry form needed to have more information. So one of the things we want, if you have anything you want us to be aware of on the site, please fill out this page on the back. Right on the back of it, we have a hard copy of this that we hand to the crews that are in the field that are cleaning your home. So anything special that you want to be notated, like your wood stove, please save my wood stove. Put a note on here. We will call you 24 to 48 hours before we come to remove the debris on your site, and we'll tell you we're going to be out there, and you can remind us, but chances are our teams are pretty good. They're going to remember. They'll look for your wood stove. If it can be washed off and put aside, they'll wash it off and put it aside and tell you, hey, here it is. It does have to be cleaned. So on a metal stove, I would warn you, they're gonna hose it off. So it may rust, it may not. I don't know, it may already be rusty looking. But those are the things. So the back page of the right of entry form, fill it out, write as much as you want in there, turn it over, write more. Please, one of the things we ask is that when you sign up, give us all your special instructions. Let us know. If you have, say your pet was buried in the backyard, you want to make sure that our crews stay away from that little area, make a note where that is on your lot. Pet buried back right corner of lot, please don't go there. And our crews will avoid that the best they can, but please, we need your feedback to let us know that.
Okay, we've had a lot of hands go up and down, and I'm going to go in the best order I can, but did you want to add
I just
to that?
want to add one thing, because this came up a lot during the Valley Fire. And you pretty much covered it, but another example of that is if you had an area in the house where your jewelry box, you haven't had a chance to go through the ashes to find, something that melted or whatever, they work with you on that too. Just have to make sure that they know that ahead of time. But the question I had that I was going to ask before Jenny brought that up, there's a lot of chimneys around here. You'll notice a lot of them are really old, and there's some emotional value to having something. Is there some way that, and I know we have a demolition exercise that we go through as far as the permit goes, is there some way that they can take that down and salvage the bricks? I mean, I know it doesn't sound like a big deal, but it really is.
Okay, so the problem would be with our crews supervisor, and what I would say is absolutely we can work something out. If there are, we can't leave it in place. That's the big thing. It can't be standing.
Right.
But if there's some way we can work it out, where if you have some that want to be,
Lots of other questions. So the gentleman in the blue shimmery shirt.
Couple of quick questions. What if your insurance, are you going to give an estimate on the cleanup, or are you just taking it even if I've got $50,000 worth of cleanup? Insurance.
Can't give an estimate, but what they'll do is when everything's completed, a very itemized statement.
And then you're gonna bill accordingly to that, or
Pardon?
are you saying that you're gonna bill accordingly to that, take the money accordingly to that, or are you just gonna take the insurance no matter how much it is?
So, can do it.
Okay, but you're not answering the question.
Okay, well,
Is there a figure that you're gonna stop at?
no,
No.
we have to clean the lot
You're
until
basically
it's
gonna
clean.
take it all no matter what it is? Okay.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Carte blanche.
Now, here's what I'll tell you. So it's public record. The state books are open, so everybody can look at them if you want. The average cost to clean up one of the lots last year for the Valley Fire right now just came in at $108,000 each. That's the average. Some were less, some were more, depending on how bad, how nasty the material on the site was. So 108 is what we came out of this fire. Calaveras, 140. So because of the hauling, their trucking went 65 miles each direction. So that's where, if you have that much insurance, by far, you need to look at a private contractor. Probably the state program is not the right one for you. However, if you have underinsured or you have no insurance, this is probably the best route.
Some of the bids that we're seeing right now from private contractors are from 18 to 20,000, somewhere in that area right now. So that's what it's looking like.
And what's the plan on the wells? If you guys come into the property, are you just gonna fill our wells with concrete and cap them off?
We don't touch your wells.
Wait, a water supply well?
Correct.
That you're using?
Well, not using at this stage, but.
No, okay. Sometimes there's an old hand dug well, and you see these things around, and they're 3 or 4 feet in diameter, and maybe 20,
Right.
30 feet deep, and if it's a true hazard, yeah, we'll have to do something. In fact, during the assessment that our crews were doing, when we discover those, either a well like that or a septic tank with the covers burned off it, we marked them, we put some orange fence around them, we tried to protect the open pit hazard.
Right,
But
as far as
if
the
you have a water
regular-
supply well
Right.
with and a submersible pump or a jet pump on top, no, that it does not need to be destroyed and filled in. If it's something that you're going to use for a water supply.
Pump house, you've got a concrete pad that your well sticks up through. Are you gonna?
No. If there's a little monument concrete foundation around your well casing, a little surface structure, no, that doesn't have to be removed.
It's probably 10 by 18.
So to tap on that, I'm gonna ask that's where this comes in, the right of entry, put a note on there, well located, and you can, folks that we're doing an operation in Kern County right now, in Lake Isabella, where we have 300 homes. Folks, there's some folks that drew a map of their site and said, my well is back here, don't go near my well, don't touch my well, my electrical pad is over here. So you could actually include a little sketch of your property if you would like and put on there for that. We don't want to touch the wells, we don't want to touch the septics. So the more that you can tell us about your property that you live on, the better and easier it is for us to not mess with your items like that.
Yeah,
But you have to tell us, so we don't accidentally think it's something else, like a storage shed
You
instead of a
pictures
well.
of mine, so.
Yeah.
those things Sean is referring to is on page 8 and 9 of this right of entry permit.
Okay.
We're gonna change our format just a little bit because there's a lot of questions and we wanna get to all of them. And before I tell you what that's gonna be, I wanna point out for you folks standing, we got at least 8 chairs up here, so come and get them if you'd like a seat. It might be a while. So, the next person that I'm gonna let ask their question is the gentleman in the pinkish shirt there, because your hand went up initially. But for everybody else after that, okay, Salmon, sorry, sir. Salmon. Everybody else after that, if you're able to come to the podium, we'd like to form a line there, and that way I won't have to lose my mind trying to keep track. So we'll form a line here. If you're not able to get in line, that's fine. We'll recognize you. Just tell us. But let's have people line up. Sir and Salmon, go for it.
All right, my house, the physical house didn't burn, but I lost a lot of motorcycles and cars in my yard. Will I be required to deal with all the testing and all of this stuff for cleanup? My physical house is there, but more than the value of the house is burned in the yard.
I should really like to see that.
It's right behind here. back parking lot.
If we clear this meeting before dark, I'd be happy to come out there with you.
Okay.
Otherwise I'll be in here a Friday
I
and
can
next
turn my
week.
sodium light on if you'd like.
Yeah. No, yeah. We'll try to do something.
All right.
Okay, I have 3 questions to, can I do them all at once, or do I have to get back?
Jump right in.
Okay, so, like last year in Jerusalem Valley, hazmat team came out and checked for asbestos and such. Is that gonna also happen?
Yes.
In fact,
Yes.
in the back, we have Denise, who is from the Department of Toxic Substance Control, and that's what her department does. They go in and check that out first.
Okay, great. The specific one is, my daughter and 2 grandkids lost their home on Appaloosa, so they're in Clear Lake with me. And driving my grandkids to school in the morning to the high school, I enter a hazardous zone.
Pardon?
Hazardous zone?
Driving in and out of the hazard.
Yes.
What is that doing to my children, my grandchildren?
Shall we?
Air
Is that an air
quality.
quality concern?
Health hazards?
Well, I think it's more of the signs.
It's because of the signs.
The signs. I can talk about the air quality if you want.
Maybe Ray could just talk about the point of the sign.
Yeah, the warnings are not really for people driving through in and out, not really for people even living, but not necessarily for the school activities, but for the, yeah, no, the warning, the hazard is if you're actually in a burned area stirring ash, if you're making dust. I say it over and over, dust is your enemy. If the dust cloud is blowing, if you're creating dust, you're a hazard to yourself and your neighbor and your community.
So,
If you're driving through, if your children are at school, unless the wind really picks up a dust devil and blows that right into a group of people, that could be a hazard.
Okay, so
Normal activities, if we're not stirring up dust,
gotcha.
not a great hazard. We are trying to hire water trucks to drive, to patrol the streets and spray these burned areas. That's part of dust control.
Wondering what's gonna happen during cleanup when all places start stirring around.
I can speak
to that.
I can speak to that. Okay, so her question was, what happens when the cleanup process starts and the state starts their cleanup, and how do we control the ash? It is dust, but really it's ash is what it is. So the first thing we do is once we get our crews on the ground, which is gonna be probably within the next 2 weeks, we're gonna have the first set of crews out. We're gonna start watering your lots. We're gonna drive around with just like we did down in Middletown, just like we did at Cobb Mountain, we're gonna drive around with water trucks. It's very inefficient, but we do it because it keeps dust down. We're gonna spray those lots for at least probably 3 or 4 days, 2 to 3 times a day, at least initially, because prior to our cleanup crews coming in, we need that water to soak into those properties and soak deep. Ash is hydrophobic, meaning it doesn't like water, it doesn't absorb water like dirt or sand would. It actually repels water, so we need it to sit on those lots. So the first thing we're gonna do is you're gonna see an army of water trucks watering that when we hit. And then as we're actually doing the cleanup effort, the actual crews are on there, there's a water truck assigned to every home, and we do each home and each property individually. And there's a water truck assigned to that crew that all they do is stand there and spray water on that site while they're cleaning it all day long. That's the normal process for those. So while we're doing the cleanup, it's more of a mucky kind of soup than it is dirt or ash.
Third question, can anybody answer me if CAL FIRE hits homeowners insurance before the victim of the fire?
Fire suppression, you mean?
I have an insurance company claiming that CAL FIRE is gonna hit the insurance company before the homeowner gets their
I'm not aware of
due.
that happening in the Valley Fire, I don't.
It happens to be actually it's not for this fire, so
Okay.
Sorry for taking up
That's-
time for it. It's a great fire.
You know, here's the thing, I don't think any of us here are qualified to answer that, we've been speculating, so we probably should get that answer from CAL FIRE directly.
Okay, thank you.
Most of that area is a combination of what we refer to as LRA, local responsibility area, and state responsibility area. The insurance company who considers documents the insurance service organization ratings that the fire districts have, rate that an ability to obtain, if I'm on the right track with you guys, the ability to retain and get insurance. Is that our question?
If they're going to build each property owner, their insurance.
The state nor my department bill for that cost of suppression activities. What comes out if there's criminal activity, that's investigation going on, it'll be that restitution that we would seek out for the cost of suppression fees, such as the valley coming in at about 65 million. That'll be part of that restitution if that individual were to be found guilty of negligence of lighting a fire on a penal.
But her answer to her question is no.
No, there's no fees charged to, and that SRA fee that you pay has nothing to do with fire suppression activity or prevention.
Thank you.
Okay, well, hey, she answered two of my questions, but I still have, she brought one up. So you're gonna come in with a water truck. My house is, my property, I inherited my dad's property when he passed away in March. My sister and brothers and I, it's butted against, the creek. So the back of our fence is about 2 feet, beyond that is the creek. You're gonna spray that with water, I already have an erosion issue where the creek is getting closer to my fence. I'm concerned about that, and I want to know, are you going to prioritize based on the closeness of all that to water sources or waterways, et cetera?
So the way, so to answer you, it's kind of a two-part question. So your first part is, yes, we're still gonna water your lot. No, we are not going to overwater it so it runs into the creek. Trust me, we have Fish and Wildlife as part of our debris. Yeah, we have part of, Fish and Wildlife as part of the debris management team. They would be all over us if we did such a thing.
Great.
The second part of your question is the, prioritization. So in this fire, it kind of like what we saw last year, we have areas burned directly adjacent to schools. Those are gonna be the first priority. I'm gonna tell you that right now, everybody just very clear, we're gonna clean the first ones near the schools. That's my first priority. The second priority is gonna be waterways, habitat, sensitive areas. And then we're gonna go back into the regular, just neighborhood that doesn't have anything. Now, just so everybody, the state process for this, we're looking at a 60 to 90 day operation. So we're not gonna be here like we were last year. We're not doing nearly as many. So the vast majority of these properties will be cleaned up in the first 60 days, which is gonna help us because we're trying to beat the rain. So that's our whole goal, is to beat the rain, to keep the runoff from happening. But going back to priority, schools, and then sensitive areas, waterways, if there's anything near a daycare, if there's anything like that, and I don't have 100% of all the layout out there, but think about it like this: we're always going to go and try to protect the vulnerable populations first, then we're going to go to the environment.
The other thing is, I know you had mentioned that you could note things on that form. It looks like I'm probably going to be signing up with you guys because the insurance at this point is saying you're denied. There was some problems with when my dad passed. They say he never paid that bill. We're trying to prove he did. So we're fighting them initially. Are we going to be able to designate, to get them to put some kind of extra erosion control on that creek edge?
Yes.
Because it's already a problem, and then we're gonna be putting heavy equipment there, and water and all kinds of fun stuff.
Absolutely. Okay, so real quick, just to back up real quick, and I'll answer your question, but give me just a second. Let me lay it out. So, which I think I may answer a couple other questions. So the very first step that we do in a debris cleanup is we go in and we do what's called a site assessment. So we send, we don't just go in and start digging. We actually.
Wait, this is after the hazardous waste removal.
That's correct.
Yeah.
But we can do depending on the site assessment. Okay, so the first part will be the site assessment. Okay, so I'm just back up one more step. Ray's absolutely right. So the first thing that the county will do outside of the Cal Recycle, Cal OES cleanup is County Environmental Health will be working with Department of Toxic Substance Control. They'll be removing paint canisters, propane canisters. They're going to make sure that the items on the property are safe. They're going to do a basic asbestos overview. They don't get deep into the testing that comes in where our crews come in, but they do a generalized overview. They don't dig through the ash to look for asbestos under the pieces. So the county environmental health and DTSC, Department of Toxic Substance Control, will come in and do that initially. Then the full cleanup starts. And then the full cleanup, going to the lady's questions, is the first thing we do is we do a site assessment. That goes into drawing the pictures of the site, knowing where the wells are, knowing where the septic is, going to your right of entry and taking into account any of your special circumstances. And so we do that, and then we assign a debris crew, as well as notifying the homeowner. We assign a debris crew. The crew goes out, they clean the debris, they remove the foundations, they scrape. The first scrape of the property is 6 inches. So it's about that much. That's about the top layer of dirt. That usually takes out most of the contaminants. Now that's not a guarantee, because there are some lots where we found some bad stuff before, even in this county. So if we have to do that, we do another scrape. We usually do 2 to 4 inches, depending on how deep it is. Once all that's done and your property's clean, then we go in and we do erosion control. Every property that's near a creek, on a hillside, or anything of that sort, we'll have at a minimum hydroseeding and wattles. Now we will put up some silt fencing if you're on a real steep hill. I don't know. This doesn't look to be as steep as I've seen in the past. But if it's really steep, we'll use some silt fencing, but there is erosion control that goes in at the end. And then the final thing is you guys get a sign off from the state and the county saying that your lot has been cleaned to these standards and the testing of the soil is this, whatever the background is that we're testing to. Right? Anything more to add to that?
Yeah, it seems to me that you're saying your lot would benefit from some erosion control at the beginning.
Yeah, I was already looking into
As well as
erosion
at the
control
end,
when
yeah.
the fire hit, because
Yeah.
the creek.
Because the creek is so close to the developed area that
And
that
I was
burns.
just never comfortable with
Yeah.
that, and there was never any riprap or anything put in there, or any kind of erosion control,
That-
other than we had a stump.
Yeah, that could go case by case. It wouldn't be anything as extensive as building, stabilization on a
Right.
stream bank, but it might be wattles or berms to prevent, runoff from going down into the creek as the work is being done. But they could look at that case by case.
Yeah, and they do look at that as the site assessment teams. They do look at erosion control up front. One of the things with erosion control, we don't put too much in while we're cleaning, because everything that we put in while we're cleaning has to come out.
Right.
So that way we don't leave contaminated anything behind it.
Right.
So if there is something that's needed, sometimes I've seen them use wattles. I've seen them use sand. Down in Lake Isabella where we're at now, they've got to use sandbags. But it kind of depends on each site, and maybe yours is a little different. But we will take all environmental concerns into account.
Okay, cool, thanks.
No problem.
I represent the Chant family who lost their husband in corridors, which couldn't be present because he had a stroke and surgery. His questions were the following. He wants to know, as soon as we do this Clayton Fire permit to do this, because their property was not insured, they want to know how soon you guys plan on doing this, like when you're going to start.
We're going to start within the next probably 3 weeks. I'm going to guess we're going to be on the right. Now, when are we going to start removing debris? I don't know where the property is, because I laid it out. We're going to do the ones next to the school first, and we're going to do ones that are like the other lady just said, hers on the creek bed. So I don't know exactly where the property is. I couldn't tell you exactly what date, but I can tell you 90 days from now, there's an expectation from the governor's office that we're going to be pretty much packing up and heading home. So it's going to go pretty fast.
Start time also depends on the workforce. How many individual crews can be working at the same time, and that's kind of still to be worked out. When there's 10 crews working, they'll get to you in a certain time. But if there's 25 crews working, it'll get to you even sooner.
And to tie into what Ray said, the more crews, one of the things we can't do is bring 25 crews out without 25 properties. So the more people that sign up and the faster you sign up, the more crews we can bring on. Most of you saw the operations last year down in Middletown or up in Cobb Mountain or in Anderson Springs. We can bring in, the state has the ability to bring in a lot of crews, but we have to have folks sign up, because if we brought a bunch of crews out here and had them idle, not working, there would be a lot of upset folks. So one of the things is encourage your neighbors, encourage everybody to sign up, because the more people that sign up, the more crews we can put on, the faster we can get it.
Okay, and my next question is that Mr. Chant and his son have been out on the property past 2 Saturdays, including myself, and there has been other people that has been going through these people's properties, and as they've been there on that property for 20-something years, have seen people that are not there. And when we brought this attention to the sheriff's department, they did nothing. They allowed these people to come in here and go through personal properties on Quarter Horse and surrounding little towns. What's the city planning on doing about that?
You mean trespassers and thieves?
Yeah. And we have recorded it, and we had videotape and tape pictures, and nothing was done. In fact, when we went over there, when James went over there to go clean the property to see if there's anything salvageable on his property, along with his son and stuff, we were told to basically get the hell off of our property, and we were showing these people disrespect while they were going in there and taking their stuff. I mean, there's off of this property alone is missing, there was workout equipment and stuff that was in the thousands and stuff in this little shop, and the only thing that actually survived was maybe like 3 or 4 dumbbells. Everybody else is taken taken off. So he had no chance to go in there to go get to his property because he had a paint pump taken and removed from his stomach.
I'm gonna put Chris Macedo, the undersheriff, on the spot. He is often at the table, which meeting for this fire.
If you give me the date and the time after we're done here, I'll look into it and see whether or not what you're stating is correct and whether reports have generated and an investigation into that.
I'll have to give you my number.
That's the undersheriff.
Huh?
That's the undersheriff there.
Okay, and then why in the world are which makes no sense because there's like glass, we're going through that pile, we're cleaning up the glass and stuff to go into there that we know that there's like jewelry boxes or things that are underneath there. Why remove the garbage cans? Why can't we like bag that up and put it in bag it up and put it over there? I mean,
With the dust and the ash?
no, well, part of the property burned and part of it did not burn. And then the property that didn't burn is glass. This was recycling. And then those dumpsters were only out there for like 4 days. And then there's other people like kids and teenagers being curious and dumb, who, including my son and stuff, who's cut himself on that stuff. Why can't we pick that stuff up and put it in the trash barrels?
Trash barrels, like you're a customer for the South Lake Refuge.
No, you guys put dumpsters out there, and then
Yeah.
you guys removed them after 4 days.
Yeah, that was, you can clean up those hazards. You know, we want you to manage dust and be careful that way for yourself and your neighbors. But you can clean up a broken glass, you can clean up other stuff. The dumpsters that were provided were temporary, and that was through the trash company. That was through South Lake. And
that was also for the people to use that had been without electricity and they need to place to dump their refrigerators and freezers. They're not there to dump the debris, any of the debris, the glass, anything that comes off of a home that's been lost. That's not what those are for, because you can separate the glass out, but you can't separate the asbestos off. You don't. I mean, that's the reason that can't be used for that, because then it's dumped in the landfill and it contaminates the landfill improperly.
And his last question was like on their house, and so there's trailers. The roof had collapsed and it bolted and stuff. And there's certain areas that we know that there is more stuff that's up underneath there. And when you guys go and clean up this property, are you guys going to make time so that way we can like get what's underneath there? We can't lift the roofs.
Again, yes. Use this.
We can't. Okay, so when we start cleaning your property, you know, we're out there in the big white suits and the masks, and we can't actually have the homeowner come back onto the property at that point.
No, we just want to be able to get access to the safe.
But what you're asking, but we could, okay, so what you could do is you could ask to be present during the cleanup, and you could ask us, or you could just put on the right of entry for us to collect the safe and bring it to you. We do that also. We collect gold, coins, jewelry boxes, and I'll tell you my experience has been, if you have a jewelry box, you tell us where to find it, we'll find something. It's usually a melted mass of what was in your jewelry box. Some people make something else out of that. But if there's a safe, we can find that. You have to tell us where to look. But we can't move part of the property and allow you to go back in there. We'd be allowing you to expose yourselves to a hazard once you have given us permission to go onto the site. And it has to do with exposure. If you go onto your site and you expose yourself without the state or the county's permission, I can't stop you. But once we're actually doing work on the site, I can't let you re-enter the site at that point.
Okay, and with this application, what kind of documents do we need to submit with it?
That's it, just that. If you don't have insurance, you don't have insurance, and that's the end of it. That's all.
In addition to the signature page and the identification page, starting with the middle of page 4, there's several initial here. So look through that, and you initial there, and you tell us that you truly are eligible for this program under the eligibility criteria. You tell us that you're going to receive our notification. You tell us that the property is going to be accessible. If there's locked gates, you give us access to your lock, to your key, or your combination, those kind of things. So there's look through this carefully, and you do give us permission to do lots of things on your property, and it's all based on safety and a complete job.
Okay, and then once the property's cleaned up, how long do you think you guys will let us rebuild? Or is there like a waiting list?
Yeah, you can get rebuilding immediately after we deliver the certificate of completion.
Everybody will get those certificates, right? Or just copies?
Well, it's a one-page form. You get a copy. You can get the original. Well, probably we keep the original and give a copy.
Okay. All right, thank you. Thank you. Just inquiring, I got a couple other bids. One was from Chewa and one was from Epidendio. In Epidendio, I have an adjacent deck that's right up against my mobile home. The mobile home, all the windows blew out, and it took all of the insides, everything's blackened to it's gone. Except the deck's kind of partially damaged, but I had it well insured, and the Epidendio people call it an old wood deck, and that it's a note, that it's not on them if they tear out part of that wood deck is damaged, or if my driveway going up to my little place up the slope it's a circular driveway, and it might not mean much to somebody, but I don't want the rest of my property damaged, I have an old mobile, and it's got a pop out on it, and a couple of sheds, and all my belongings, and those are all gone. And I want to get it replaced in some manner where I'll have something, going, and it would be adjacent to the deck. But the deck itself cannot be damaged, and the deck rests right up against my mobile home all the way. It's just made to fit that old mobile home. And I don't know how the new one's going to fit with my deck in any way, but it's very well insured. And
so you're saying the mobile home is burned, but the deck is not?
Right, the deck is just kind of barely damaged. The back ramp is gone, kind of, all needs to be replaced. And then a little bit of coming up along the side where the mobile home was completely torn through. My place is the first one on Big Bear that was taken out in the fire.
Was your mobile home? Did your mobile home? Your home, did it burn to the ground, or did it just?
The windows all popped out, and it was blackened. Everything was blackened to the core. I mean, I might have rescued a few trinkets out of there, but the insurance company told me it's a total loss. The inside and the mobile home itself.
Okay, but the structure is still standing. Yeah.
It's still standing, but it's gone. There's nothing of any value. I might find some little jewels in there, but I would have to get probably a police officer and volunteered to go in there with me. It's a very unpleasant thought, chore, and I don't really think I'd recover very much at all. But
yeah.
But I was wondering about the deck itself. I don't want it to be damaged as you guys are pulling this stuff away, because my deck is very well insured, and it's already has estimations and everything with my insurance company.
Yeah, I need to look at it.
Yeah.
Maybe a private contractor would be better, you know,
Uh-huh.
we'd certainly take it on, but we'd,
Yeah, well, it's like 1,500 square feet of redwood decking, and it goes up 3 or 4 heights, and it
Yeah,
has
yeah.
a lot of stuff on it. It's probably almost as well, you know, valuable as the mobile home itself, so, I mean, it just has so much work into it, and, but it's, you know, anyway, I want that to be preserved. And there is I do have an estimate for the cost of repairing it, and.
From the contractor, okay, no, we can look at it.
Uh-huh.
If you choose to sign up, you know, give the details.
Oh, I'm gonna sign up with this state because my insurance company only says that they'll go like $5,000. And I understand you guys are gonna do it for $5,000.
Yeah.
How long do I just, as soon as the insurance company should probably give me that $5,000, and I guess upon completion, I give you that, I don't know, or they do.
Yeah, the first thing I would say with yours, because your property's a little different than some of the ones.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's a partial burn, what we call a partial. It's not completely burned to the ground, the entire property.
The entire home though is, and most of the trees are still there.
I understand, but what I'm saying is that because normally when our crews come in, we don't have the ability, we're using large excavators and large dump trucks.
Yeah.
So what I would say is sign up for the program.
Yeah.
Have Ray, you know, make a note on there.
Yeah.
And then what we'll do is we'll actually go and assess your property and
Uh-huh.
just put on the back. This is gonna be really important. This is gonna be, you know, I'm gonna, back here. Put, assess my property only. Do not remove debris until I give you permission. And basically, you would be telling us to go out there and take a look at the property, assess it, and then let you know. Because when it comes to your deck, we may not be the best crew to do that. You know, when we come in, we remove.
Won't do it either.
I understand. And chances are, if you have a private contractor that won't do it, the state crews probably can't do it. That's probably because we don't have the ability to pick through and separate material.
Sean, can I say?
No, I mean,
Here's the thing, and at some point, we have to be able to acknowledge that we probably can't answer your question based on this, no one's seen it, so there's no way to say yes or no that it's gonna be salvaged.
Oh.
So it's gonna have to, have to.
Well, I mean, if they have to rip out part of it, I guess I can live with it, but I have,
Just
I'd
nobody's
like to
gonna be
know
able to
what's
answer that
going
question.
on, you know?
And we've got a lot of other questions, so.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry, okay.
Yeah, all right, no problem.
Hi, everybody. Terry Larson from Lake County Magazine, but I want to thank you all for being here. You're very, very helpful. I have 2 points I want to make. The first is we have a distribution center for those of you who've lost your homes or had some kind of loss to your properties. It's located at 8466 Lake Street, and it's the old Rebecca's Lodge. So if you need anything, we have food, we have clothing, we have furniture, we have household goods, dishes, all that kind of stuff. And we need to move it out of there because right now I can't even take any more donations because we're so full up. So if you need anything, even if you're not in your place yet, and if you can just come over and say, hey, I want this or that, that helps us be able to figure out what to do with it so we can move things on and get new things in. We've got a pod waiting for us down in Santa Rosa, brand new stuff from the East Valley, and there's another convoy of trucks coming up next week, and that's part of my problem. I need some storage. I have no place to put anything else. I have committed to do this on a long-term basis. We have 2 acres of land that is flat land. We can put 2 containers there, and that will be enough space for me to hold stuff for people and to have room for incoming things to store until we are ready to use them. I have asked repeatedly to the resources that I have on hand here in Lake County and have not been able to get through to anybody to get this to happen. And this is getting to be a desperate situation. This is our business that we purchased not too long ago, and we're trying to do renovations in the building. And we made this offer on the contingency that we would get 2 containers and a garbage dumpster, and we haven't received any of that. So I'm throwing myself at the mercy of you guys to come together and maybe come up with something that we can use to help the people. We started off the whole thing by saying no used clothing to be donated. We only wanted new clothing, but we have had probably 3 I mean, I'm gonna say about 1,000 bags of used clothing just turn up over there.
Terry, I'm
Yes.
gonna jump in because the
Yes.
questions that we were fielding right now were about debris.
Right, well, I'm gonna make this quick because I feel like I needed to get this out to you guys, so I'm gonna finish
Yeah.
that, that's fine.
So I wanna speak to what you're asking.
Yes.
For those of you that know what happened in the Valley Fire, the donation situation was a disaster.
Right, and that's
So
fine.
we're glad to hear this and put this out to the community, but tonight is really about what fire survivors need to say and ask.
Right.
So if you can wrap up your
I
comments.
can, I just wanted to make the issue
Thank
known,
you.
so that
Thank
if
you.
there is a resource out there to help us, because right now we're at a
Sure.
standstill.
So you
Okay.
just streamed it, so
Yes,
maybe
thank
one
you.
will come
So
forward.
the next, and to me, for the county to pay $1,000 to make this happen, doesn't make sense why it hasn't happened. So the next thing I want to let everybody know is that in the Rebecca's Lodge, we found tub after tub after tub of records of the Oddfellows and the Rebeccas that goes back to 1847. Okay, I think there's about 10,000 photographs there. So those of you who lost your photos of your families, they're there. So anybody who was an Oddfellow or Rebecca, please contact me and we'll see what we can do to get your pictures back. Thank you.
Thank you for your help.
Okay, so we have a bit more on tonight's agenda that's unrelated to debris, but these questions need to be about debris. That's why we took the questions in the middle of the meeting. We have more to talk about than that. We have Small Business Administration here to tell you what's about to start happening today. We have community development. We have air quality. So again, let's talk about debris right now, and then we'll move on, and then at the end, we can open it up for general questions as well.
Okay, I have a few questions. Are we allowed to be there when they first come to clean if Hydroseeding is doing it? Are we notified when they come?
Yeah, so the question was, do we notify you prior to cleaning your site? We do. We notify you 24 to 48 hours ahead of time that we're going to be on your site, what day. Now, what we don't notify you for is when you sign up, when we go out and do the initial site documentation where we're mapping your site, we don't call you ahead to tell you we're going to send a crew out there to survey your lot. Those crews do about 20 to 30 a day. So we could tell you, but I couldn't tell you at any point of the day what time they would show up. A little bit different. For the debris removal crews, that crew is going to be on your site for almost an entire day. So those ones you will have notification 24 to 48 hours before we start physically reaching in with the excavator and removing your property.
Okay, thanks. And then I'm pretty concerned about my septic. It was behind the house, and I'm wondering, I'm surprised you guys said it was only a few inches you take off, but I'm still not sure if that would affect my septic.
Just make a big note here, septic behind house, don't touch septic. Now, if the septic is set back from your house, I'm hoping it is, most of the time they're like a 6-foot separation, maybe more. If it's 6 feet, we're not going beyond, we're not gonna be out there. Unless your home debris has gone over and now is sitting on top of your septic, we would not be going outside of the footprint of your house. But this is part of why we asked you, and on, I believe it's page 8, am I correct, Ray? Yes, page 8,
Yes.
actually asked you for your septic and the location and the construction, if you know, and your comments, you can write right beside it, don't touch my septic.
Do you know if
And we will do our best. I mean, if it's behind the house, that's usually good. The ones we have some trouble with sometimes are the ones that are like right in front of the house, or that the house had an addition added to it, and now your addition is right up on your septic tank. That happens. But usually when homes are constructed with a septic, there's a setback. It's not, the septic tank isn't right up against the house.
Do you know if they were damaged last year by the fire usually, or if you guys damaged them cleaning?
We damaged some cleaning. You remember we did 1,300, so we probably damaged maybe 20. There were quite a few that were damaged due to the fire, and then there's some that are just fine, and there's some that are outdated. So really the question I think is when, and this is where your date of construction comes in, and this is going to go back to the county because they're actually, I believe that they have to do a septic inspection prior to you rebuilding.
Okay, related to that, I've heard that you can get a temporary permit to park something after it's been cleaned. With that,
Temporary permit for what?
to park
Park a
like
trailer.
a trailer.
Oh, yeah.
In the community development department, the building department, we have a temporary dwelling. And I have some forms up here which explains the process and explain an actual application form. So come and take one of these.
Okay, is it required that you have to have a working septic, or can you dump sewage like at an RV center?
We want a working septic tank because, we want to make sure that people aren't illegally dumping. And so with that, it's connected to a working septic tank, that causes us concern.
So can a trailer be connected to a septic?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Our department works with Bob on those permissions and permits.
Okay. Also, I had 5 large trees. I think one of them might be okay. What's your procedure for checking those out?
Okay, that's in here too. If the tree poses a work hazard, to our crews, they'll have an arborist look at it, and if it's dead or dying, and it's in the work area, could fall while our guys are there, they'll take it down. If it's set back, if your property is large enough that you have a dead tree, and it's not going to be a risk to our work crews, that's up to you to have removed or taken down. So that's our program on trees.
Okay.
What I've been telling folks with trees is that, let our crews, we have the ones that are right up against your house, that are close to the house we have to cut. We'll cut the ones that we can, and then what'll happen is at the end, once we're cleaned up, prior to rebuild, I recommend, have your trees dropped. Have the dead trees dropped, and then they can chunk them up right then. But that way you wait till the debris pile's moved. That way you're not dropping into the debris pile, and then at least then you give it a shot and see what ones are in our way that we're going to cut for you.
Okay, so I didn't have insurance, so I'd have to pay for that or have a friend pay that. Okay. And is there a way to tell if they're still alive, or do you guys know?
It's kind of tricky. The conifers, behave differently than the hardwoods and the oaks. What we rely on is the professionals. There's a guy called the certified arborist or registered forester.
We have somebody available that can look at that. Greg Justy, he can come out and give a ride. There's a few guys around that are able to do that.
Yeah, Mr. Justy is a forester. He's helped a lot of people through the last year.
And we can make sure his contact information is on the Lake County Recovery page tomorrow. Tony, you remind me.
I also have a fence that's right in the way of coming in with equipment. I'm wondering if they just bend it back, or what they do about that.
Is it destroyed?
No.
Is it metal?
It's chain link.
Probably we're going to remove the section. Most likely.
Okay.
Most likely. We're not going to bend it and leave it all torn up out of the way.
Yeah.
They'll remove a section. If there's a way we can remove a section to get in without destroying it, please put a note on the back.
She's got a big driveway. I know where her place is. I don't think it's gonna be a problem.
It won't be a problem. Either way, if you have, just for everybody, if you have a fence you want us to try to save, put it on the right of entry. Use your notes to say, please save my fence. And if we can't save your fence, we're going to call you and tell you, hey, we got a problem. We can't get our excavator in here.
Yeah, I think you can take out a section.
Yeah, notes of your right of entry form.
Okay, and then just one, I'm wondering, do they test the asbestos as they clean, or do they just test it once and then clean and then test again? Or?
Okay, so normally we are not going to test every site for asbestos. What they're going to do is they're going to use the environmental hygienist and use their best visual to find what we call gross asbestos. But we treat every lot as if it has asbestos, because it would cost too much to treat each one independently. So what we do is, from our crew standpoint, we just, because it's a work safety issue, it's also a landfill issue, we treat it all the same. We say it all has asbestos. That way we're not trying to separate, this little piece can go to this landfill, this piece can go to this landfill. The cost would just grow exponentially. So what we do is we treat it all the same. Our workers wear the same equipment on every site, and then it all goes to a lined landfill.
Okay, so I'm gonna jump in, turn around and look at everybody waiting to ask a
What we
question.
should do, there's a lot of questions that are unique to that property. So Jenny or you, anybody that has a question regarding your fence or your deck or anything like that, let's meet up with these guys afterwards online. They can answer that. If there's a question that's general that everyone would probably benefit from, then I think we should probably stick with that.
So we're gonna do one question per person and not a question that's real specific to your own property. Because they'll talk to you after. People are already leaving because we're talking about individual details. So. Okay, sir, go ahead.
Okay, so mine's real simple. My house is pre-1900 Victorian and lots of rock mortar foundation, so you can see my worry about the cleanup. So in my bid from my insurance company, they gave me $17,000 for debris cleanup. If that's their maximum, you guys cover the rest?
Absolutely. We don't, yeah, whatever
It's not gonna go and wipe out the rest of my money out for my dwelling, I can just write that out? And
That's
you just
it.
come and take care of it?
That's it. Yeah, we don't charge anything.
This was about the neighborhood. Hopefully before the rain, someone will come and repair all the crushed culverts, the backfilled hand dug drainage ditches down the side of the road where the county doesn't, where we've all done them. In the firefighting, I'm glad they saved everything, but in the process of moving all that equipment around, they've crushed virtually every culvert mouth in both entrance and exit in this neighborhood back here. And they backfilled almost all our drain ditches. And I don't know about all my neighbors, but I dig all mine by hand because nobody else is taking care of them.
Are those on county maintained roads?
Yes, they are.
They're not? You know where he lives?
I live right here.
Okay, so it's not a county maintained road? Then no, the county wouldn't do it.
Okay. It's all stuff that was run over by the fire trucks, by the water trucks, getting in and out.
Actually, there's some, fences that were destroyed, things like that, and CAL FIRE deals with some of that, and they have a complaint, they have not complaint process, but a claim process to go through, so check with me later and I can tell you how to get it.
So, I'm a pastor at a church in Kelseyville, and I have potentially a squad of volunteers, but we don't want to jump the gun and get in your guys' way and be tripping over your efforts and so forth. How best can I direct my volunteers to help the people here in Lower Lake?
Are you familiar with Hope City?
No, sir.
Come see me afterwards, I can get you in contact with them. We've got a program going that you can probably help with.
Okay.
For the debris removal, it's pretty specialized, and volunteers, have a limited role on what we're
debris removal.
Yeah, we don't use any of the volunteers.
But there's
Even
lots
the big
of labor.
ones.
I just heard from a lady that might need some tree stakes.
Right.
I'm looking to get out. That's kind of what I was like.
Actually, our family attends the church.
Just a simple question. When we finish finish up, where do we turn it in at? Okay, where are you at?
Or it's on the front. You talk about the page on the front page. You have your address.
Yeah. If you want to put it in the mail, if you want to do it tonight, I can take it with me. If you want to mail it or bring it to our office, if you want to make an appointment, I'm down here several times a week. I can meet someone. In a short while, we will be opening field office. We call it the Debris Removal Operations Center at the old Bank of America building. It's not up and going now, but it will be. It's the building we used for a week for that LAC, Local Assistance Center. So we will be operating out of there. I can take it. You can call me if you get that 263-1164. We can receive it by attached to an email.
Computer run. Anyway, thank you. I have an unrelated question. I know it's not layout, but I have a big brick pile that's by the house. Do I need to remove that? I'm just asking.
Brick pile?
Yeah, it's bricks.
You want to save the bricks?
Yeah, they're all.
But then, we're not gonna be able to pick through them, so I can't.
No, it's all piled up together.
Put a note on the right of entry, do not remove my bricks. And then what'll happen is if we can't, if they're in our way, we're gonna tell you we can't do your property with the bricks there. And then you can make a decision accordingly. But we can't separate it out, our teams, the crews can't take time to separate, I wanna keep this, I don't wanna keep that. They can't do that. That would be up to you, the homeowner.
Okay, sir, a question about debris, because that's what we're talking about right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I went over to the county health department and got the permit for personal cleanup of debris. My house wasn't burned, but the outbuilding was. When I reviewed the permit process, it told me to notify PG&E to identify septic. It was on blocks. It's a shed. I'm not excavating the dirt, but yet they're still requiring me to test for asbestos and test for heavy metals and make notifications to PG&E and everyone else before I can get a permit to clean this 10 by 14 shed up. Is it necessary for me to still do the testing, or is it?
Maybe. Where's your place?
My back fence is the back fence of the high school football field. 1990. It was built just like the house. It was unfinished. There was no sheetrock or anything in it.
Yeah. What's your need for time schedule?
Well, I want to get it cleaned up as soon as I can. I'm right next to the high school in Carlisle.
Yeah. There's in some cases like you're describing, I might be able to modify the to look at it. I might be able to do Friday afternoon. I know I'll be able to be down here Monday or Tuesday if that'll work for you.
Yeah, whenever. You have a number you want to call me, or?
Yeah, give me after the meeting.
Well, I was going to take off, but I'll write it down. That'd be great because the kids are curling around.
Yeah, write down your name.
Okay, so Kim, I know you're in line next, but we're going to take survivors and their questions first that are relevant to the cleanup. I know there's a lot of people that have other things to offer, but you just have to hold off until we get done here and see what kind of time we have afterwards. Just survivors and those that are relevant to.
So we're going to finish up the debris questions and then move on and have the rest of our reports. Okay, I think we'll find it. Is it a debris question, sir? Yes. Okay.
I just want to say thank you guys for all the hard work you've been doing for our communities here. From all the fires we've had in the last 2 years, you guys have done an outstanding job to keep us going and functioning. We're all Lake County strong here.
Thank you.
We persevere.
We're going to go through the rest of our reports, and then the debris specialty people are going to congregate. What corner of the room would you like? At the end is what I'm talking about. Maybe over here by the piano at the end, so you can.
Yeah, it's okay. Just you got to look for me, so I can come up here. We can go back in the back corner. Either way, I want to be able to answer your questions, folks. So I'll be here and I'll stay with you until you have your questions answered.
So we'll move on and do a few other things. I want to tell you that the Small Business Administration has come to town for Clayton Fire survivors. I want to introduce Bill Kuntz, who's here to tell you what they're here to do, when and where.
Thank you, Carol. Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Bill Kuntz, and I'm with the Small Business Administration. That's a U.S. government agency, the SBA. Perhaps when you walked in, you saw our signs out front. The SBA issued a disaster declaration yesterday for the Clayton Fire, and that makes available low interest rate loans. These are loans directly from the U.S. government. They're not through a bank. If you have property damage, it's personal property, your vehicle is damaged, and of course your residence could be a mobile home, that's eligible for a disaster loan. Business owners, if there are any in the room, are also eligible to get a disaster loan for both physical damages from the fire and also their lost revenue. We can loan the money as working capital. So you can borrow up to $40,000 for personal property, up to $200,000 for the house itself. We can loan for debris removal. We don't make an assessment based on an insurance claim. We make our own assessment. So you might go to your insurance company and say, I've got a bid, and this is what my debris removal and that tree and that fence are going to cost me. And the insurance company may not pay all of that. And that's where we can loan you the difference. So even if you're insured, you might find that you need more money than what your insurance policy is going to pay. You can apply for these loans and be approved for these loans and get money from these loans before you settle your insurance claim. So that's very important to some people, because as you're going through all this process, there may be expenses that you don't foresee today, that you don't anticipate, that pop up later. So here's what I'd like you to do. It does not cost you anything to apply, and there's no obligation to take a loan if you're approved. Come in and talk to us. We'll be downstairs in the parlor starting tomorrow morning at 8:30. We'll be open Tuesdays through Saturday, 8:30 to 5:30 p.m. each day. You can come in, sit down, and talk to one of the two young ladies that will be working there. face to face. We can fill out a loan application on our little laptop right on the spot. And you'll be put in touch with someone who will assess the damages and then eventually a loan officer. Our goal is to give you an answer within 2 to 3 weeks, but if you have a simplistic, straightforward situation, we might be able to give you an answer in 1 or 2 weeks. Once your loan is approved, you take a look at the numbers, the expense of it, how much it is, and you can decide right then and there, I don't want it. We'll give you 6 months to change your mind. Now, the deadline to apply for these loans for fire damage is next November 7th. So if you come in and apply by November 7th, now you've got a half a year to finish the process with us. You can decide later if you don't want the loan right now or if you don't think you need the loan. So this is a free opportunity to give yourself another option, and it'll take some time to fill out the paperwork. It's like getting a loan at a bank. The interest rate for most everyone for a home loan is 1.6%. Now, if you have millions of dollars of cash on hand, we can't charge you a discounted rate. We would charge you a market rate, which is 3 1/8. But most people are approved for the 1.6. It's actually 1.563%. The payment terms can be up to 30 years. So let's say you need just $20,000 more than what your insurance pays you. We could theoretically stretch that $20,000 payment over 30 years to make it very, very affordable. You do have to have acceptable credit, but we're not as tough as a bank. And you do have to have an income that can afford to make the loan payment. So if you haven't worked in 3 years, we'll say no. If you just filed bankruptcy a month ago, we'll say no. But for ordinary people with some dings on their credit, maybe you feel like you can afford a payment, I would say talk to the SBA and see what we can do. The money, if you've lost your home, your entire home, this money could also be used to rebuild in a different location. I don't know, this is not, I don't think many of you want to leave your property and go somewhere else, but some folks in some disasters do want to do that. You know, if you live down by the river and you got flooded, I don't want to rebuild down by the river again. I want to go up a little higher ground. So that money can be used for that. If you can't afford this disaster loan with your existing bank payment on your mortgage that you now have, in some cases we can refinance the bank loan with the money you need for disaster recovery, all in one loan at more than $200,000. You can get an extra $200,000 for the refinance part. If you want to spend extra money on rebuilding for something that would mitigate future fire damage, maybe go with a different sort of a roof material that would prevent a fire from happening in the future, we can loan additional money for that mitigative measure on top of what you need to rebuild. So downstairs in the parlor tomorrow morning at 8:30 we'll be setting up. You don't need an appointment to come in. You can't call us downstairs and talk to us down there because the folks here are just to meet with people that walk in the door. Let me give you a phone number. If you want to call and ask a question and talk to someone who's an expert in the program, call 1-800-659-2955. Some of the folks that answer that phone are in New York, and some of them are in my office back in Sacramento. But we can get you an answer. You can also go online right now tonight if you've got access to the internet and apply right tonight to go to www.sba.gov. And then there's a link, you push a button that says to apply for disaster loan. If you did go to the SBA webpage, in the little search box, type in disaster assistance, and that'll bring up everything about our program and so forth. So November 7th is the deadline. There's no cost to apply, no obligation if you're approved. The thing I hate the most is when I take a phone call from someone who says, I didn't think I needed the money, and now I see that I do. Is it too late to apply? And if this is in December, we'll have to say yes. So hopefully some of you will take advantage of this, and I'd like to answer any questions that you might have about this program. Yes, sir.
You're gonna have to file a business plan with that?
A business plan?
Yeah. When you ask for an SBA loan, the first thing they ask you is a business plan.
No, sir. This is not like going to your bank to get an SBA loan to start a business. Completely different animal.
Right.
If you've got a business, we might ask to see your business license to know that you are a business,
right.
And we'll look at your tax returns and so forth. But no, you don't have to create a business plan.
I'm in a unique situation. I have 2 lots that were my father's, and it's me, my sister, and 2 stepbrothers. They wanted to sell the place out from under me and get me moved and all that, and I was trying to buy the property. Would this loan be something I could go to buy the property out from under them and put a house on it so I can stay there? Because I moved there for a reason. No,
Sure.
I moved there to take care of my dad, but I like the neighborhood.
Couple of ideas. Her question is about the ownership of the property she's in that was damaged. You do have to be the legal owner of the property that was damaged. If you're in a property you inherited but the papers haven't been completed yet, you would have to complete that paperwork and become the legal owner of record, and then you would have eligibility for one of these loans. And the other part of your question, the money can only be to replace something that was damaged. It can't be for you can't say, well, I have $50,000 worth of damage, I'd like $200,000 please to go build another house a little bit bigger.
I just want to build smaller.
Yeah, but what we do is we say we have this much real estate damage, this much debris removal, this much landscaping, this much in personal property, and all of that totals so much, and that's the most you could borrow for those very purposes. I hope that answers your question.
That helps.
Okay.
Okay, we'll move
Thank
on
you.
to Bob Massarelli, our Community Development Director. Anything to report, Bob?
Ray's done a very good job in explaining the debris removal and working with Cal OES. One of the things I do want to emphasize that if you go with a private contractor, if you don't participate in the state program, you have to go to the health department to get a permit, and you have to come to the building department for a second permit. There's 2 permits that you have to get, and there will be 2 permits that you close out at the end. If you go with the state program, you don't have to go through that permitting process. So that's just one of the things that there is that difference between the 2 programs. Yes, sir?
Do you know the cost of those permits?
And what's the health department permit? And building department 0 also. You've had those fees waived, so there's no cost. Just a headache of working with us.
So you get your money's worth.
Yes, ma'am.
The septic though, the septic inspection is 120, correct?
Yes, it's covers an inspection. It's not something we can waive. When you want to rebuild that reconnection to an existing septic system, gets that inspection.
Okay.
Then
One more question,
yes,
sorry
sir.
about that. When we go to Cal OES is gonna come in, or whoever's gonna come in, they're gonna scrape 4 to 6 inches off of your property. Is there gonna be a requirement to replace that soil to keep the grade proper so there's no flooding?
Yeah, we don't want to flood.
You know, it kind of depends on how you rebuild. If you rebuild with a slab, you can build that up. If you rebuild with a stem
It's
wall
not
on a
gonna be
footing and a
required.
foundation, you could, if your house is a crawler with a crawl space under it, you may not need to add more and compact it. It kind of depends on your scheme.
Well, we've had floods in our neighborhood before, 97, there was 18 inches of water in my front yard. But that's because the guy at the dam fell asleep.
Well, after they're done, it'll be 22 inches.
It's really on it's on a case-by-case basis, because it really depends on what is the slope of your property, what's the surrounding situation.
And I was just wondering if the county was gonna force that.
We'll look at it case by case.
There wasn't a case that I'm aware of in the Valley Fire where the county required it. If you get ready, like Ray said, if you get ready to put in a slab or whatever, then you're putting sand or whatever anyway.
Right.
So, yeah. Or if you're digging footings,
Yeah, my
then
house
you use
was
the
up
footings
off
to
the
fill
ground,
the dirt.
that's what
You're digging
we're
footings
planning
to use for fill. So,
You will need to meet the flood insurance requirements and elevated, but if you're in a flood zone, but.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Yes, ma'am.
So the only place that you're actually going to be maybe digging 4 inches or whatever, 4 feet, whatever it was, would be where the house was?
For the debris cleanup?
Yeah.
Yes, we're only gonna be clearing the footprint of the house.
Okay.
We don't go beyond the footprint of the house unless you have an outbuilding that we have to clean up. If there's an outbuilding, it's the same thing, we stay within the footprint of the building. There's no, we don't scrape the entire lot, just where the ash and debris was sitting.
Will there be holes here and there then?
What's that?
The place will have holes here and there then?
No, not really. There's still some out there from last year. You can go down and look at them. I noticed driving up that some of the rebuilds haven't happened. So if you have a lot of questions, about how your site's gonna look at the end, I can show you pictures, but I think going out and taking a look at some of them is gonna be better than me trying to explain it or show you
It's
pictures.
not drastic.
Where are those?
Yes, sir.
Question about hydroseeding.
Yes.
The property that we have was all grassland, and of course it all burned. Are you gonna hydroseed the entire property? What does that involve?
No, we're only gonna hydroseed. Okay, so it's part of an environmental requirement that we hydroseed where we scrape raw dirt. We're not allowed to leave a site and leave raw dirt behind, and that's a normal construction issue. Like if you ended up with any other construction site and you scrape dirt off, you have to put something back on there. Now the hydroseeding that we use here in Lake County, and it may be different up here than it was last year, but it was only a 1 year growth. It was not like permanent. It was just enough to tie it through the winter to keep the site from running off.
But you put it over the entire property, since the entire grass?
No, only the part that we scrape the dirt.
Okay.
So whatever that portion is that we scrape your lot, we only put the hydroseeding where we scrape raw dirt. We can't leave raw dirt behind when we're done.
You'd be surprised how quick the grass is gonna grow back.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Do you guys have a figure for average tons per lot that's taken to the landfill?
I do. I'm sorry. That's a great question. I don't have that one per. You're looking for the per lot, right? Not the entire.
Just an average.
It's a lot.
By March or April, they had cleaned up about 1,100 lots, and total debris to the landfill, to the recycle, to the concrete recycle was 253,000 tons on 1,100 lots. Does that help?
That was a concrete.
Yeah, you remember the concrete's in there. The concrete weighs a lot, and so does that 6 inches of soil. And remember, everything that we're removing is wet. So when you're thinking of debris, picture we're moving wet muck because with especially the ash, it has to be solid wet. So it's already got water content, so it's really heavy. So I think that comes to about 100 tons
This
per
cleanup's
site.
gonna be a lot different because you don't have the same number of homes with foundations. You have a lot of mobiles and a lot of frames that are gonna be moved, and there's hardly any concrete at all to be moved, so it's gonna be a lot different than with the Valley Fire though.
Yeah, and it would be. It would be if it's mostly modular homes. Of course on modular homes, a lot of them have the metal frames, so our metal weight goes up, but the concrete weight goes down. That's what we're seeing in Lake Isabella down in Kern County right now. Yeah. We're not having a lot of concrete, but we're having a lot more metal than we had ever had before.
Comparisons with Valley Fire won't hold here.
Okay, so sorry about that. I don't have a 100% answer for you.
One other thing I want to talk about very briefly is temporary housing and the rebuild, because that's the ultimate goal that we want to achieve. I do have a package here that discusses the temporary housing, what the requirements are, and the temporary rebuild. The permanent rebuild. For temporary housing, the fees have been waived for that, so we can process those. So if you're interested in that, come up and grab this. If there's none left, it's on the Lake County Recovery.
No, you had it.
Lake County Recovery.
LakeCountyRecovers.com.
The forms are on that, or contact the building department and we can get the information to you. One of the things we learned in the Valley Fire was the people that live along the creek. There's extra requirements about setbacks from water bodies. So if you live along the creek, please come and talk to us, because that's one of the areas we've had a lot of difficulties in working on. And so if you meet with us early, we can start working with you on how to address that. Just a heads up on that issue.
So our next report at the table, and then we can open it up for more questions, is Doug, you heard our air quality director. We have him touch on the air that you breathe.
Okay. I'm Doug Garrett, Lake County Air Quality. Just a quick update for you. We have been doing monitoring. I know there was some concern about the schools. We have been doing monitoring at the schools, both at the elementary school and the high school. since the Monday before the schools opened. So we have monitors there continuously, and we are in touch with the Office of Education and the superintendent so that we can get information to the schools should we need it. Now, what we've seen so far is we haven't had any bad air days. That's all coming from the Gap Fire and a couple other little fires in Northern California. So there's nothing. We have monitoring in Lakeport as well, and what we're seeing is kind of similar levels. So the amount of stuff that's coming out of the lower lake area from the debris is very minimal relative to the smoke that's coming in from the out of the county areas. So with all that smoke, we still have good air quality. It's just a lot worse than we're used to, but it's still actually considered healthy. So we haven't gotten to a point where we're unhealthy, but when you see smoke, when you smell it, that's when, if you have health issues, when you have people who are sensitive to it, just make sure that they're aware of it and they're taking whatever precautions they need to, because it can get worse quickly, especially with the smoke.
It's the same thing we found with the Valley Fire. 1,280 homes. There was literally 1,280 different scenarios or issues that came up, and that's going to be the same thing here. Just little things that come up, and they're usually fairly easy to resolve. But I gotta tell you, I've said this over and over again. We can't resolve them unless you call. So we read about them on Facebook, and it gets out of control. It's like, oh, no one ever even called trying to get taken care of. So just don't hesitate to call, and a lot of that can be resolved so quickly. We're constantly working with Senator McGuire and his staff on a lot of issues that are coming up that are long-term, rental assistance, type things for folks, and just a lot of different things that we're going to be able to try to do to help through nonprofits. The county's not able to do any of this, and as you know, this is an FEMA event, so the resources didn't come in like they did with the Valley Fire, but there are some resources out there that are available. Brock Walkenberg's here. We met earlier with the principal of school and the superintendent, and we're trying to deal with a lot of things that have to do with kids and keeping them in some level of normalcy in their lives at school, and trying to deal with their issues too, which is big and important for all of us. So those things are happening as well. So and I'd be happy to take any questions that anyone might have, and then I can kiss them off to somebody else.
Have you guys selected a contractor yet?
Contractor,
Or that's
that would be through Cal OES, and Sean can probably address that.
So at this time, we have not announced the contractors. I'm expecting that there'll be an announcement within the next 3 to 4 days. I apologize, I'm not in the contracting department, but I do know that they are working in the background to get those contracts in place. What happens with the state is we have a set of contractors that have been pre-qualified. Last year, unlike this year, every single one of those contractors that was on the state list went to work. This year, they're not all going to be going to work, so we're kind of making them compete for the business a little bit more than we did last year. Last year it was pretty much bring everybody and keep them coming and keep training. Where this year we're making the contractors, the state contractors compete between each other for the projects. One contract I'll tell you who it's not is AJ Diani. AJ Diani is on the Erskine Fire in Kern County, and they do not have the resources to expand up here. And they were the ones last year that did Rocky Fire, and they did not Anderson Springs. They did Harbin Hot Springs. They were the state contractor that did those 2 areas. So that's one that won't be here this year. I've already got committed someplace else. But the other state contractors that were up here last year are all bidding on it. Which one of them will get it, I don't know. But
and we have the other thing that we've worked with the state on the last one, and I anticipate it'll be the same thing here, where local contractors will have opportunities to get a lot of this work too. In fact, in the Valley Fire, it was such that any local contractor, local trucker that wanted a job had it. If they weren't working local guys, we don't have enough people. The state come in with other contractors outside is going to be a necessary part of the project. So any other questions for me? Yes.
Unless everybody that's here is probably going to be concerned about the property and rebuilding or taking care of the debris and things like that, but in cases where there's people that weren't just, they had no insurance or whatever, or it's too devastating and they just
the Valley Fire is towards the end of it, because we can't have that happen. We can't, you know, everywhere around here drains into something. And so we can't, somebody mentioned that earlier about erosion control, that we have to address that. And so it may come to a point where we actually have to do an abatement process before they leave, so that the county can do an abatement, say if you don't do the right of entry and do all these things, and then there's a, you know, an absentee owner that just is not responsive, and we have to go ahead and issue an abatement order, we have the state go in and clean it up, and then it's covered that way. So,
Yeah, the state is still committed to the county to clean those lots, even the ones that people don't sign up, and the county has to go through the process, we will still clean them.
And we may, actually, that's a good point. You, Ray and Bob have probably already talked about this, but maybe that's something we need to look at, because this project's gonna be accelerated a lot more than the Valley Fire was, so maybe to offer that abatement process much sooner before these guys leave in 60 days or whatever.
Yeah, that abatement operation is a little different. You know, you don't sign up, but we sign you up instead.
Yeah, you're voluntold.
But there's some due process, there's some homeowners' rights. We have a 30-day notice, we have a warrant signed by a judge, and those things are built into the 90-day schedule that Sean mentioned. So yeah,
and none of it, you know,
it's a little different.
It sounds bad, and it's not meant to be punitive, but it's, you know, we're trying to clean this up as an entire community. And if, you know, 20 people out of 200 don't do it, the other 180 are at risk somehow or another. It's just, while we have them here to do it, just want to get it done. That's part of the rebuild, is the cleanup.
Of the 1,280 lots on the damage report from Valley, we ended up abating only 9. So all the others either signed up with private contractor or registered in the state program.
Yes, did you have another question or no? Go, Jen.
I'm okay.
I do.
I'm sorry, Bert, go ahead, then Bert. Yeah.
I'll be really quick, because my neighbors, we're trying to tend to our properties between the Fort Horse Lane area and Coxsey Creek Hill. And we see the God knows what debris that's in the creek already. Yeah. And so some of these questions kind of been answered already, but my neighbors have wondered, is there going to be like a double whammy of people in the creek cleaning up and assessing the trees that are precariously poised like 30 feet up that look dead, and we clean that up? Because there's worrying that even a windstorm is going to come and knock a lot of stuff down.
Debris in the creek, you're talking about brush and...
I'm talking about chain link fences.
That was already there.
Yeah. Well, it looked like it actually came there during the fire, you know, when people were, you know, because there's a lot of stuff in
Okay,
there.
there's a lot of stuff, but I suspect most of it was already there, because we haven't had any rains, we haven't had any, you know, winds that would blow anything down. But anyway, regardless of that, I don't think any of us have an answer to that, but that's something that we should probably look at. But I can tell you this, in a lot of cases where there are trees that are hanging, that are gonna fall down, and they're on private property, that's probably gonna be the private property, because we don't have the resources to come in and take those trees down. And if they're not a threat to the county road, which we don't have the resources for that, but we're more likely to take care of that than we're not gonna be able to take care of the stuff that's on private property.
My neighbors.
And the creek is on private property. The creek runs.
So it's going to be mostly on the property owner's discretion or whatever, or trying to contact you know, people in the Department of Fish and Game or whatever. We don't know, because we got burnt tree logs already in there.
Yeah, unless somebody up here has any other information, there is no program out there available to take care of somebody else's private property. Then they're going to be ultimately responsible for.
Okay, well, thank you.
Is that correct? Anybody else have anything on that? I think the best thing for us to do is to say right up front that there's probably not a program for that, and if there is, if something comes up, we'll surprise you with it. I don't want it to be the other way around. So another, Burton, you had a question?
Yeah, this is, there's a neighbor close to my office, for example, that has dry grass that's like 6 feet tall, that remains a major fire hazard. Is there a process to follow, a kindly process that deals with that kind of stuff, so we don't have more fire?
Maybe Willie could address that.
Yeah, we actually have a weekend program. There's a school funding for it. We contact our department in the unincorporated area, our fire district, which is Coastal Lower Lake. Call the department, give us an APN or an address. We send out a 30-day abate letter. Battalion Chief Charlie Diener follows up on it, and the judicial system doesn't allow us to issue citations. So we'll sometimes bring CAL FIRE in for the LA 100 inspections also. So it's kind of an honor we can move forward with the lenient property, but I don't have the personnel for that. Whereas in the city limits, we actually have a citation program where you have 30 days to abate, you have a second 10-day notice, and then you have a $500 citation. As though we did in the city, but not in the incorporated areas yet.
Okay, so were you able to hear that?
Just contact
the station, and they do have a process for that, for abatement. Yes.
In 10 days, there's a sponsored program for household waste, and I think there's some confusion around the issue because, and looking at this, the number one thing is yes, the town sponsors this program. However, there's a special cleanup program coming in, and Denise is here, and the one thing that's not addressed is the cars, and she was saying how caustic those boundaries are, and that's one of the things that they remove, and the debris people are not removing the cars because of title issues, etc.
Right.
So
There is a program available for that though. To remove the cars.
There is.
Yeah, there's two auto dismantlers, Last Mile Auto and Kelseyville Auto Records. If you provide them with paperwork.
But I'm just thinking about the fact that this is a potential hazard that people may not be prepared to deal with moving these toxics themselves, and to understand the safety precautions that are needed to deal with them. And I think they have some wonderful wisdom in Denise's department.
Well, we can work with Ray and figure out maybe a plan for at least the toxic part of it, and then maybe there's a program that we can work with the dismantlers.
If you sign up.
I'm hesitant to pretend I know more about that, but that's the first I've heard about $100 fee for anything.
Is it regarding removal of cars from properties with burned homes?
Yeah, they have to get the junk salvage title on it first, then you give them the
Okay.
bid, they
Which is
run
easy to do.
Yeah.
And then if they have clear title, they'll
Didn't we
deal with it.
set it up last year where we towed them away and they said no people would give it?
Yeah.
So we got to take a look at that, because right now what we're doing, and last year might have been a little different due to the magnitude and scale, but right now down south in Kern County, the way we're dealing with cars is there is a tow company that we as the state are teamed up with. The tow company takes the car, they then do the paperwork, they bill me for that $100 you're talking about, they bill me for that. Then they send out the notice to the last 5 owners saying, hey, we have this car, if you want it, come get it. If not, it's going off
Does anybody ever come get it?
to the salvage. Nobody ever does come get them. That's because on the right of entry form on page 8, you tell us what cars you want taken. And it talks about on there, and it has the cars on there and the quantity and keep or remove. So if you want that car removed, you put remove on there, and we're gonna call a tow company, and we'll be teamed up with one here. And they'll take that car, and then the process that we currently use is they notify through the DMV process, like any other towed vehicle. They send a notice to the last 5 owners saying, hey, we have this car that was towed from the property, which you've already given us permission to take, but they still got to notify you, and then you got, I think, 30 days to come claim it if you want it. If not, they send it on down the road and charge me, the state, under our cleanup program. It's about $100 to $150. I don't know locally what I'll pay, but that's how it's set up. Last year, it may have been a little different because of the magnitude and scale, but I could have swore we were taking them off, but I don't know 100%.
If the car,
Yeah.
if the car is on a property that's eligible for the program and signed up in the program, we'll do it.
Yeah, if it's a property full of cars and nothing else, I can't touch that. But I'm cleaning up a burned house. But if you had a car in your garage or in your carport that burned as part of your home and you want us to take it, on page 8, the vehicle, you list the quantity and you put keep or remove. If you want to keep it, we're going to push it off to the side and hose it down and clean it and leave it for you. If you want us to take it, just put remove and it'll disappear. You're going to get a letter in the mail though.
Any other questions? Okay.
I'm surprised they were still charging me. Maybe that's normal, but someone said last year they didn't charge people up in Muslim and for their last water bill.
The water company is here, if you want to talk to them, yeah.
It felt like I was handing over my last money, and like some people said the hydrants weren't working that day, and we were kind of like, oh, the water didn't even work. Yeah.
In Middletown.
Yeah, Todd, you want to talk to that?
I believe for all the houses that burned, we are charging for the 12 days before the fire, and that's it.
Oh, okay.
And after the fire, basically, we're gonna send a closing bill of just 12 days before the fire occurs.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Start.
What happened to the SBA?
What's that?
Yes.
Yeah, you can give a presentation.
Okay. And the other question is there a tenant responsible for their debris? Because there's walls, but tenants have a lot of stuff inside their house.
Okay,
Are they
so
responsible for that?
let me fill Sean in. Sean, she's talking about, they've got 8 cabins, right?
Yes.
Okay, and it was a commercial rental, that, an SBA is considered that commercial based on it. So, I wasn't sure if, and I had spoken to her about this, I wasn't sure if this was something that Cal Recycle was going to get involved with because of their position on commercial.
I have to take a look at your property. Is it run as a daily rental? Is a weekly daily rental type thing, or is it something where these are long-term residents? Long?
30 days.
30-day rentals, but I mean, every 30 days are the people turning over? No?
Well, no.
Well, no, the reason I'm asking, there were some last year that we had that were like a vacation rental.
It was, originally it was a vacation rental that turned into longer term type situation.
So just a normal rental, that we need to look at
But
those.
there were 8 of them on one property. And one of the things, we've got Southern Baptist, but there's some other groups out there that want to be involved in the cleanup to do the certification. And this was something that I was thinking that they might be able to fill the gap on if Cal Recycle can't do it. Because it's the only one that I know of like that. And so it's a project that they could do.
What I would like you to do.
They weren't insured.
Yeah, if it's possible, can we look at them? I want to look at yours independently because you're kind of a hybrid. It fits the commercial, but also fits a residential type setting. And it doesn't, you don't really fit the definition of an apartment complex.
Without that revenue, I can't afford
So,
commercial.
anyway, can we take a look? I want to take a look at yours independently for the cleanups. Rob,
Walk away too.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, yes, back here.
On the private contractors, I got the A license, but it went kind of quickly, but I did the other two.
Right. The other 2 licenses that are needed for private? Or the certifications?
Yeah. State Contractors License Board is an A license in general engineering or a C27 for demolition. In addition, those individual crew members, those workers need a course and a certificate called Hazardous Waste Operation, and that's a 40-hour course with also medical monitoring for wearing respiratory protection. And that's in state and federal OSHA regulations. Yeah, sometimes hazardous waste operation emergency response is abbreviated HAZWOPER. So that's what you may have heard of, but it's an actual course of instruction, pass an exam, receive a certificate, maintain an annual refresher course. It includes your employer's respiratory protection, so you can wear the respirator. And the respirators they use are those air purifying respirators. They're not the fabric N95 mask.
And it's
important.
One of the delays that we had in the Valley Fire cleanup was the training and certification of the workers that we used up here. And that certification happened in November of last year, and it's good for 12 months. So we might be able to avoid a lot of that delay in that training because we have a lot of people that have that certification within the last 12 months. So that'll help us out some too. So any other questions? No? Okay, again, in case I said it too fast last time, my phone number 349-2628. Chris Macedo's here, his number's 911.
When is the next meeting?
Oh, and that's, okay, I'm glad you mentioned that. Carol can talk to that. But first I wanna say, even though we did this with the Valley Fire, there's still a lot of things that we're missing. We're trying to get caught up on stuff and do things the right way, and I apologize. And there were a couple people that They weren't aware of this meeting, even though we did everything we could to announce it, try to get it. So we'll try to do a better job of making sure that's posted. But Carol, when is the next meeting?
It's the 21st at 6 p.m. Location still pending. So every 2 weeks.
Yeah, every 2 weeks we're gonna have one. We'll try
Location
to
still
get.
pending. We cannot use this space because of the quilt show.
But we should know within the next couple of days or so. We'll try to
Yeah,
get
we
it
have a
out as quickly as
request
possible.
out for a location, but no confirmation.
And the same thing happened here. We intended to have it at the school. Something happened there, so apologize for that. But that's
I actually was checking the post office.
post office and
Just
then
to see if I
Brick
can
Hall,
find
Fire
any
Department's another
flyers,
spot,
so-
and then our website.
Yeah,
too.
I always keep the calendar updated with anything like this.
And what's that website?
LakeCountyRecovers.com.
The press release was sent to the newspapers, but there seemed to be some delay due to the holidays, so we apologize for that.
I heard it on the cable.
Every 2 weeks.
Yeah. And I called in the local radio station.
So, but before we wrap up, Mike Dean is here at the podium, and so is Jim Comstock.
I hope everybody knows, but Susie is cooking in the Brick Hall.
Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And that goes on till what, Lily, the 22nd? 21st?
22nd is when they're gonna close.
Close, right.
22nd is when they're gonna close, and the 23rd they're serving leftovers.
No, they got that booked.
Additionally-
Closing the 22nd.
Additionally, on Friday, we are going to have a hamburger and hot dog barbecue in the park, all free. It's sponsored by St. Helena Hospital, Clear Lake, Lower Lake Community Action Group, Walmart, and various other businesses. We'll have a band there starting at 12. Food will be served from 1 to 3. Following that, at 4 o'clock, we have a homecoming parade. So everybody needs to go down and support the high school, and the parade starts about, I'm shutting the streets down at 3:30 to 5:30. The parade should start at 4:15, and it's going on 2 blocks, and then back to the high school, because we don't want to run them by as the least amount of burned out area as possible. And following that, of course, at 5 o'clock, 5:30 is the JV, and 7:30 is the homecoming parade around the football field and the varsity game.
And they're playing who?
I have it written down, I think I'm reading my
Oh,
notes.
Just, we got a tremendous team here. Unfortunately, there's been way too much experience doing this. I'm Jim Comstock, District 1 Supervisor. We're here for you individually. Most of you have my phone number. If you don't, it's 490-5480. I will return your calls. I may not get it immediately, but I'll return them. And if you're upset with something, you call Rob. We work very, very closely together. Some of these folks are so busy. Contact us first. Maybe we can answer it, maybe not, but if we can't, we'll get it to them, because they're, pretty much.
540
490
490.
5480. And the lady that was here, Star, will be here at 8:30 in the morning to see you downstairs with the SB. She'll be here. Thanks.
So the other thing I should add about next meetings, at the last meeting you heard us talk about a workshop that was going to happen on September 15th regarding the Cal Home program. If you saw our press release about tonight's meeting, you know that we are postponing that meeting for the time being. We need more information before we can host that meeting. State staff from Housing and Community Development were going to come talk about this program, but there are more details that need to be sorted out about how that program is going to operate in Lake County. We'll have a date for you just as soon as we can, get it together. But again, we needed more information before that can be presented. The Cal Home program, we are told, is going to offer home loans to folks that are uninsured and underinsured. It's like gap financing. It's like a second loan, and it can be available for reconstruction or for first-time home buyers. So more information to come on that, but not September 15th if you were holding that date. So the next regular task force meeting again is the 21st at 6 p.m. at a location that we'll announce just as soon as we have it confirmed. And we had promised that we would put our debris experts in one corner of the room, so we'll let you guys start heading in that direction because there are probably some follow-up questions. Thanks again, everyone, for joining us tonight. We appreciate it.